Imagine this. You're driving on the highway, and all of a sudden, your engine stops. You frantically try to merge right as your car rapidly decelerates, all in the hopes that you can get to the shoulder before something horrific happens. Now imagine the reason your engine randomly cut out was because the company that sold you that car shut it off remotely. That's what happened to Victoria Carter and her children in June of 2021. The used car company responsible was ultimately forced by the government to pay millions back to consumers who fell victim to their faulty engine kill switches and other illegal behavior. And that money might never actually reach consumers like Victoria due to our present political environment. This is more than just a story about a scam. It goes deep into how DOGE is really running the government, and why each and every one of us is now more vulnerable to the kinds of illegal behavior that almost killed Victoria.
Before I was fired, I was working on a case against a loan servicer called USASF. The company was affiliated with a buy here, pay here used car dealer called US Auto Sales.
This is Lindsay Siegel, a former lawyer at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, or CFPB.
The company was very focused on selling cars to low-income people, people who might not have access to traditional credit, people who were desperate for a car to get to work, to pick their children up from school. The enforcement division in my team opened an investigation into U.S. Auto Sales because we got many complaints from consumers ranging from, that they were overcharged by the loan company, that their cars were being shut off when they shouldn't have, that cars were being unlawfully repossessed. So there was investigation opened into it, and we filed a lawsuit against the company in August of 2024.
What are some of the stories that you heard from the affidavits that you collected as part of this lawsuit?
One of the claims in our lawsuit was that U.S. Auto had defective starter interruption devices. A starter interruption device is a tool that US Auto placed on the cars that it sold to consumers, where consumers had a loan for the car. The starter interruption device emitted a warning tone or a series of warning tones, allegedly when consumers were behind on their payments. If consumers then didn't make the payment that US Auto said they owed, the starter interruption device, several days later, after emitting these warning tones for several days, would shut the car off. So it would be totally inoperable, undrivable, and that the car would be stuck wherever it was. One consumer told us that she and her husband had to sleep in their car for 3 days in a fast food restaurant parking lot. She and her husband had headed out of town. They stopped for dinner. And then when they went back out to their car after dinner, the car didn't start. They called the company right away, but because it was after 5 p.m. on a Friday, the company said that they could not turn the car back on, even though the representative on the phone admitted that the starter interruption device should not have turned their car off because they were not behind on a payment. They didn't have money for a hotel, so they slept in their car and they had to wait until Monday morning to get their car turned on, even though the starter interruption device had activated by accident.
Starter interruption devices, in theory, are not supposed to turn off a moving car. It's very dangerous, but it seems like that did happen.
The company knew that the starter interruption devices were defective, that the technology was old, it was antiquated, it was breaking all the time. The customer service department regularly got 30 or 40 calls from consumers every single day with defective starter interrupter devices. And the company refused to make necessary upgrades because it would have cost too much money, and they were not interested in spending money because it would cut into their profits.
This isn't a one-off case of a bad loan company. Another CFPB employee I spoke to recounted many other similar cases. In some, car loan companies would illegally repossess cars and charge consumers hundreds of dollars to reclaim their personal items, even going so far as to hold kids' homework hostage. In the case of US Auto, the CFPB won a judgment of $32 million for consumers before the end of 2024. The CFPB should now be ensuring that every victim gets what they're owed. But with the introduction of a new administration, Elon Musk and his allies are dismantling the CFPB in the name of saving taxpayer dollars. In February, the agency's acting chief ordered all CFPB workers to stop all agency tasks, including the kind of work Lindsay does. And with CFPB employees being ordered not to do any work, is that money getting to consumers still?
In this case, consumers could be owed anywhere from $100 to $5,000, depending on what happened to them. And none of that money is getting out to consumers while the CFPB is on a stop work order. The stop work order has essentially given a green light to companies that would, otherwise defraud consumers, take their money, cheat them out of money that they're owed. It's really going to result in consumers losing a lot of money.
Elon Musk says he wants to delete the CFPB. DOGE and the CFPB acting director are doing everything in their power to destroy the agency under the guise of efficiency. One senior executive reportedly said the CFPB will become a, quote, room with 5 men and a phone in it.
The CFPB has returned billions and billions of dollars. I think to date it's about $21 billion to consumers who were scammed or defrauded or owed money by financial entities. The CFPB is an incredibly lean and effective agency. So for every dollar that it costs to run the CFPB, the estimate is that it returns $2.80 to consumers. What DOGE is doing to the CFPB is not creating efficiency for the American public. It's not saving consumers money.
Is there anything you want to say to either Elon Musk or even Americans that might be skeptical of bureaucracy out of control?
I think at the end of the day, they're not going to be successful. They may slow us down for the time being. They're not going to win this fight because I think American consumers are going to realize that this is not in their interest. This is instead in the interest of big companies that have a history of stealing their money.
Thank you so much for watching our video. If you have any ideas or pitches of what we should cover next, leave them in the comments. And be sure to like and subscribe to get more Perfect Union in your feed.